good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise. It is this Monday morning. I'm Chamberlain, so.
And good morning to you. I'm Neo Taigbe.
Well, rise and shine. We're coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. I'm Kaido Kikulu.
I don't know whether to call it the capital or something else. We'll get back to that in a little bit of time. Amaya Mikey, good morning and welcome. Today is June 26th. It's a Monday morning. Now we're counting down to the Eid.
Yes, because the Eid is going to be this week, isn't it?
Yes, it's this week.
Okay. I think I know that several things usually happen, in build up to this season, and one of such is traffic. Even before then, I know my guys in Lagos, you tell us about your experience about all of that. But, I just kind of thought that maybe I've not checked properly, but I thought that with the recent fuel price, lots of people are just beginning to recalculate, and they're forced to do that because, look, you can't just enter into your car, head down to nowhere, in a manner of speaking, really, when you can afford to just hold back a bit because you know how much you have to pay for premium motor spirit, petrol. And so you don't just want to just do what you would have done because you could at the time. Now you have to be very cautious. But there are several other people who have to do what they have to do because they got no choice. And the state of our roads, goodness, in some areas, and then the traffic situation. But I know that when it comes to festive seasons like this, you have a lot. They're usually gridlock in key places, different areas in the country. I think that's why the Federal Road Safety Corps are saying that they will go ahead and mobilize. I mean, they're citing road crashes, avoidable traffic, gridlock on the highway, and then the Corps Marshal here has directed the mobilization of, they say, adequate logistics and personnel for the 2023 Eid to enhance visibility and guarantee safe travels for all road users before, during, and after the celebration. This special patrol operations, we understand, has been scheduled to commence from 26th of June, and it will terminate on the 1st of July. I know you then say, so what happens after that? We go back to grappling with gridlocks. But part of what they listed as the objective here is that, one, there has to be a reduction in road traffic crashes, road traffic fatalities, road traffic injuries, prompt response to road traffic crash victims, engagement of robust public education and enlightenment, and speed removal of obstructions from the highways, among others. Now, they did say that I think about, 750 patrol vehicles, 120 ambulances, 25 tow trucks, 200 bikes will be on the road for this special operation of theirs. And they listed several other things that they will go ahead and do to ensure that, you get safety, sanity on our roads. But I also do know that recently, I know that in different parts of the country, there's some complaints which some residents have brought up against some officials of FRC, but they're trying to see how much of that they can also observe to see if it's becoming a pattern where they stop persons on the road and then begin to ask for all sorts of things, gratification inclusive, which you'd have thought, this is kind of strange. It's usually never associated with the with agencies such as this, and so there will be questions about all of those. But there are several other components of ensuring that, look, the way we use the roads, it's a lot more sane, right from when, I don't even know how many people go for driving test again before you get your license these days. But this is just part of what highlighting ahead of this period, hopefully, hoping that this, because I wonder, so after this timeline, what? You go back to business as usual?
Chamberlain, you started, I like what the Road Safety Corps does, when the Federal Road Safety Corps sets out for every major event around the country, festive periods. They always deploy men and equipment to the roads all to curb traffic accident, road crashes, and all of that. And indeed, I would dare to commend them for their effort so far. And to a large extent, they've helped to reduce the level of carnage along our roads. But step back a little bit. The allegations in many quarters about the behavior of some of the personnel of the road safety leaves a lot to the mind. What exactly is going on? And several times reports have come into the management of the road safety, and you've seen actions they've taken. I mean, one of those days I was driving along the road, and I could see the officials of the road safety corps trying to stop another person who was jumped the red light. So they were trying to stop him, and the guy was really daring to move, as in he refused to stop. And I was feeling for them also, because they were trying to do their job, and he wasn't listening. Eventually, he stopped. And he turns out he's one of those guys, one of those people that knew one big person or the other. And so, well, do you know who I am? And I was just sitting down there watching them. I attempted to, say, hey, can you just let these guys do their work? He shut me out, so I left. But in all of that you do, there are still those other ones who are the bad eggs, who will stop vehicles and attempt to do one thing or the other. And then there are those who would stand by and watch things happening. And last week in Lagos, I think it was in last week, when they talked about the fact that some of their officials were actually assaulted by the road users. That doesn't help in any way. So while we are blaming the road safety officials for not doing some of them for not doing what they're supposed to do, we do commend them for those who are doing what they're supposed to do, but also towards the citizens and road users. How do you treat the officials of the road safety, and not just the officials of the road safety, other traffic management agencies or road management agencies? How do you treat them? How do you relate with them? Are you always assaulting them or feeling that they are there to stop you from getting to where you need to get to? Or would you let them just do their work? Let them do what you're paying them, and it's the taxpayers' money. You are paying them to do their work, so let them do their work. You see many Nigerians going against traffic, driving, as we say, one way. And if they are stopped, they'll tell you, on some of them, blaring sirens. Contrary to the laws. In Lagos, for instance, there's a state law that says sirens are not permitted. But you find people blaring their sirens just to go past traffic congested areas. And that is not helping the situation in any way. So road safety, well done for what you're doing. And for the bad guys in the road safety who are not doing what they're supposed to do, hey, please repent and change your ways. And then to the road users, please let's do better and let these men and women do what we are paying them to do. Ayo.
Well, I thought he was going to say to the ones not doing their jobs, well done, because we need to highlight that. But yes, you've raised very important issues. I wonder what more to add. We're living proof of just how hellish traffic management can be. One, when you don't allow the right people to do their jobs, and when you compound issues by breaking simple traffic rules. If you stay in Lagos, if you've had to come to Lagos in the past few months, then you know what I'm talking about. I mean, people who ply the Lagos-Ibadan route, on an average, spend 3, 4, 5 hours as the spirit leads, as they say, or as the traffic generous. Spirit leads.
You are very generous.
I'm very generous,
Yesterday,
right?
some people spent 7 hours in traffic.
There you go. So it is a reality. So what you're looking at right there, it's not a dual carriage road, okay? It is just one direction. The other lane is on the other side. But there you see vehicles facing coming traffic. Guess what? With so much boldness.
Random abandon.
Honestly, and it just beats the mind. And this is what you have at the end of the day. Yes, the traffic situation in Nigeria is a lot of things put together. For example, this road construction. People will tell you it's not rocket science. Yes, you have to fix that road, but there are alternative routes that could have been fixed. The Shagamu-Ikorodu route, I can go on and on. In other climes, you don't make road construction seem as though you're trying to punish people. No, you should fix those alternative routes. Yes, it will cost more, but when you add it together, I can't imagine how many people cannot ply this route, for example, if they have an emergency. You don't even want to do this. If you're in labor, you don't want to get on this road because you most likely deliver right there in traffic, having moved just a few meters, not even kilometers in that traffic. So one, there is that thinking right and ensuring that, alternatives are put in place so you don't put people in that situation. But that is not an excuse for people to break the law. And what do you find? People facing common traffic, they cause accidents, they hurt people. In fact, they assault road traffic managers. Most times you just see the road traffic managers, they move away. Because on the one hand, they don't have, I can go on and on, but these things should not happen. So it's on different levels, from government to the people planning our road, our traffic management, to the commuters. Imagine someone I was speaking to yesterday said, I didn't even know that there's actually a light that indicates that someone is reversing. This is someone that has been driving for years. Thought that the brake light was also the reverse light.
No, you're kidding.
I am not joking you. This is for real. Please go ahead.
That's not even funny.
It isn't.
And, talking about funny, it was just Saturday on, was it the program Sunrise, that a comedian came in and he was saying, look, this traffic is because I was asking him, hey, how do you construct jokes? How do you engineer jokes? I said, look, that Nigeria is funny.
Welcome to Nigeria.
He said Nigeria is funny, that, for instance, take traffic. That the jokes is all there. For instance, said, this is a time to advocate work from home.
Yeah.
So now we're now asking the question, so which people cannot work from home? Okay, well, maybe doctors can do telemedicine. Is the fireman going to work from home? Is Kade going to work from home? Is Chamberlain going to work from home? Is Nyota going to work from home? I don't know.
I mean, we've tried it.
Maybe that will happen. So that leads me to ask the question, how many jobs have been lost? How many people have lost their jobs because they couldn't get to work on time? Particularly those plying this Lagos-Ibadan Expressway from Owe-Ibafu and the rest of them going towards Lagos. Guess what? The distance that they have to, that these issues occur is just between 100 and 150 meters. And after that, the rest of it is free. But before you get through that traffic, it's usually very, very hellish. And Nyota, you're absolutely correct. Last week, Wednesday, Chamberlain, you would remember, we had this conversation with a road safety official who was saying, look, while the security officials, the traffic managers have their own, piece of the pie, the road users, we have our own clearly cut out for us. The commercial buses stop willy-nilly, and there is no one to charge them, to take them on. The following day, Chamberlain, I can tell you that the traffic got better because the people were able to enforce that the commercial buses do not stop along that short path, that sandwiched part of the road. But guess what? Friday morning, it was back. They were still stopping there. There was no one to stop them, no one to check them, no last man, no NCDC, NSCDC, no road safety official, and all of those things. So sometimes it's not the problem of starting something, it's the challenge of sustaining it. This perhaps was the experience of so many people yesterday. This, I think, is either the Otedola Bridge or the Kara Bridge itself.
The Kara Bridge.
It was hellish yesterday for so many people that quite a number of people spent so many hours, as many as 7 hours yesterday. The papers reported that as of Saturday, that happened on Saturday, happened yesterday as well. And even as at this morning, my producer was coming to work this morning and she had to alight, get off the bus, the vehicle that was taking her, and had to ply a cab, I beg your pardon, was it a scooter to get to work. Maybe not on the highway, but I can imagine the number of paces she must have had to walk just to get that done. So, and there is so many people who have lost jobs because they couldn't get to work on time. These are costs that the federal government or the state government may not be able to factor in. So, who is going to bear those costs? Is the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing helping Nigerians think along this path? The information to block certain parts of the road wasn't received 6 hours ahead. People just woke up to it. I thought that the appropriate thing to do would have been, look, this is going to happen in 2 days. in 3 days from now, so people can look at alternatives or determine how they're going to do their stuff. So, well, while this is not just a Lagos problem, because even in Kano, the previous state government had to ban certain vehicles because they caused a lot of traffic in Kano City. But hey, we have our job cut out for us. We all have to collaborate in order to get this done appropriately. Chamberlain.
All right, so let's go ahead then and take a look at some of the dailies. Let's see how much of that we can take. Let's start with Vanguard newspaper this morning, guys. Forex scarcity persists as CBN resumes intervention. Well, you know that the president has also spoken up about that, or continues to speak up about it, especially while he was in France. We'll come to that as we proceed today on the program. But look at the first rider. Banks ignore CBN's directive on dumb accounts. Does that sound familiar or what? Exchange rates converge around 770 naira to the dollar. Oh dear, you thought that the naira was rallying against the dollar, but now you've got this. So, I'm sure, anyway, as we progress, we'll talk about this and see what's the implication of that previous announcement by the governments concerning some of those policies that they had taken. Remember, I think it was Mr. Alake who said, yeah, you know, these policies are coming in thick and fast, and so far so good. How do they deal with this now? Is it working or not? You will be able to tell us as we proceed. But while at that, subsidy, lack of license, foreign exchange, others hinder fuel importation. So we'll still have hurdles to cross. We're still grappling with fuel subsidy matter as well. So those are some of the issues right there. And then Benue. I don't know how many of you are keeping tabs with that. There seems to be some drama going on there where the governor initially said, yeah, he wasn't thinking about doing anything untoward or something that will be out of or against the law concerning the possession of local government chairman. And much later, after I guess he had gone through some reports, he thought differently. And then the local government chairman themselves up in arms. And look at this. Why we recommended suspension of 23 local government chairmen, Benue speaker. So they've got some sorting out to do there, because the local government chairmen themselves are saying, look, we're going to court on this matter, because they think the governor is going against the court decision on the position of the local government chairman, particularly in Benue State. So,
you know, that matter, it's you have the judiciary weighing in on that. Okay, they're going to the judiciary, but they have the legislature, which is the state assembly, saying, look, this guy should be suspended for a while. The executive is given the directive. So the governor didn't act alone. So what would the judiciary be doing now when they go to the judiciary?
The state legislature, it says they recommended the suspension.
Exactly.
So even if they recommend the suspension, but you still need to look at the position of the law. So if they recommend their word, it's just recommendation. So, but if there's a court decision about that,
and
it will
it's not a sack. As they say, it's just a suspension. They said,
what, from the recommendation?
Yeah, the recommendation wasn't to sack them. The recommendation was, okay, leave the office. Let's look at your audit and see how much has come in and how much you've spent.
Well, there will be a lot to decipher here.
Indeed.
I mean, to grapple with, because if the people say, look, we are elected, you can't wake up and kick us out because we are elected just as you were elected. So we'll wait to see how this happens. And then butcher stoned to death in Sokoto for blasphemy. And then you thought, are we still going through this? But while at that, I know you ask questions of security. We're optimistic of improved security, says acting IGP. So now they need to speak to all of these issues and ensure that everyone is on the right side of the law in all of this matters. So it will be very important they ensure that people get that message. That is Vanguard this morning.
And the Guardian newspaper is the next one, and they start out with this. 40% hike in vehicle duties worsens transport crisis, poverty. That story continues on page 6. But you see that picture there of the port. We see the vehicles all lined up. And then by the side of that, you see a graphical illustration of what they say is a history of customs forex rate review. And you see that from 2014 to 2023. Continuous increase in the FX rates review of the customs. That's what you see there. That's how Guardian's representing it. It said 40% hike in vehicle duties worsens transport crisis and poverty. It says the least vehicle duty now in Nigeria is 1.1 million.
The least.
Yep. The least amount of money paid for vehicles brought into the country. So I think this is an opportunity for, the automation policy of government. What happened to that auto manufacturing policy of the government? Would the current administration revisit it? How many vehicles would we see being rolled out? How many plants would we see being established in the country? Well, maybe with the new electricity laws that will ensure that there's power in the different states. We'll see more car manufacturing companies begin to set up in the different places. But we do have car manufacturing companies in Nigeria already. How much of patronage are they getting? Okay, then Citizen, UK awaits Tinubu's cabinet ready for stronger ties with Nigeria. You find that on page 6, and I think it's a fallout of that trip to France that the president had. A sad one here, beside that one, media professionals mourn and eulogize departed Don, for sure. It's on page 4. And then 6 Nigerian pilgrims dead, 8 others ill as 2023 Hajj rites begin. That's not too good. It's on page 3. You find more details on that. But see this, Nigeria loses $50 billion yearly to foreign domination, non-implementation of the Cabotage Act. The Cabotage Act, Chimlin, we've had this conversation around the Cabotage Act for over and over and over again. What is delaying the implementation of that law? I mean, to ensure that our ports function effectively, what's coming in, what's going out, the duties or the levies that are meant to be paid come in as and when due and are utilized effectively. We understand the nation loses $50 billion annually to foreign domination and non-implementation of that law. And finally here, community pharmacists decry 15% vaccination rate. That's on page 4. And that's it from The Guardian.
We'll take a look at the Nigerian Tribune that's up next for you this morning. It's a big story. Nigeria's public debt rises to 49 trillion naira. It's a page 6 read, and I know you may be wondering, is this new? I thought it was way more than this. Yes, there's lots of riders that you cannot see on the front page. More details will be inside. Don't forget the ways and means. They've been securitized, but they've not been included. So just add like 22 trillion naira to this one. You know what that comes to. And it just hit me again. At what exchange rate? You have to factor these things in, okay? Are we using the 447 naira to a dollar?
Verily, verily, I say unto you, that one, that generation is gone.
Exactly. So you have to find out the details of this one, because from what I see, it is a 447 trillion, especially when 447 naira to a dollar that was used, especially when you see the dollar conversion. So, page 6 will have more details for you on this one. And I think there needs to be a conversation around the issues of, public debt, even the foreign exchange value. I mean, let's weigh the pros and cons. When the forex, when naira to dollar is low, what does it mean for goods? What does it mean for production? So we can see all of the different angles, because debt, it depends on what side you're looking at it from. Is it good? Is it bad? What is it used for? So these conversations need to be had by government, not just try to continue the same old conversation, because some of them came into power by vilifying the government in power at that time that you didn't treat debt well. So they still carry on with that mentality.
Perhaps, another thing to ask would be, where is the, conversation coming from? Is it between Nigeria and the US, or Nigeria and the UK, Nigeria and Canada, Nigeria and what's the name of that country? UAE. I heard over the weekend a video I saw of the Kenyan president saying, how can I want to buy something in Djibouti from Kenya and I have to dollarize? You know, why can't we rethink that?
So we need to first have government, people, then a regional approach.
Exactly.
You know what?
So it's a whole load of work.
Absolutely.
Yes, right.
And you see this story, increase in suspense over Tinubu's ministerial nominations. Who has the suspense? Who's suspicious? Okay, no, they're two different things. Suspense and suspicion.
What is it? Who is suspending?
Who's suspending, right?
Yeah, that's another thing.
Page 22. Hey, we need to get Nigeria working, and as they say, you need to hit the ground running, make the right choices per time. Nigerians cannot even. What's that word again? They don't want any slow pace movement. We need to move in paces. Lots of stories on the front page. I'll just let you do the choosing. But finally, fluctuations in airfares traced to FG's unification of dollar markets. So that's it for the Nigerian Tribune.
Well, there's a story not being talked about much on the front page of this Nigeria newspaper, and this Nigeria is picking up on it. And look at it, that's it right there. Flood of tears. Abuja residents sacked by flood, recount ordeal. Over 100 buildings submerged. Who would have thought? Flooding in Abuja? Why is that? Find the details on page 2 of the paper this morning. And we began talking around the Idil Bill. Well, look under the picture on the front page. Salah, Nigerians groan over high prices of RAM foodstuff. RAM is 250K, 200,000, 180,000. That's the 21st page of this Nigeria has the stories for you, and a number of others you will find quite interesting. That's this Nigeria newspaper this morning.
Not so that they pick. You look at Daily Trust. If you look at these two stories and look at Naira devaluation, for instance. That's what Daily Trust is focusing on. Nigerian banks heading for recapitalization. Capital base eroded by $4.5 billion since 2005. Now, this is credited to an Apex Bank source. Experts kick against regulatory-induced change. So all of this back and forth going on, even within those in the industry too. And then you get to see how banks' capital base decrease with Naira devaluation. And then they have some sort of breakdown for you here about the financial soundness indicators of the banking system as of April 2023. So, speaking about the financial system, so this is a direct reference to what that might talk about here today. That is Daily Trust today.
The Abuja Inquirer is what I have here, and starts out Agbakoba, Toyo, others to Tinubu. Nigerians experiencing hardship. That's Abuja Inquirer. Yeah, there you go. Nigerians experiencing hardship. Agbakoba, Toyo, others to Tinubu. That's a major headline. And above the nameplate, you have the a report there, but basically how Yes Father decided Benue Guba polls, according to a report, is on page 3, and that's it from the Abuja Inquirer.
Nigerian News Direct has this one. All eyes on Tinubu's cabinet. UK eyes formation of cabinet to strengthen economic relations. Prioritize merit over political patronage. Arewa Economic Forum. And MAN, I imagine that's the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, says appoint experienced technocrat to lead power sector. You know, I was just thinking about it. Just, you know, when this will begin to hit the manufacturing sector properly. I mean, you still buy a bottle of water for 100 naira. I don't know if the high cost of, you know, petrol now has been factored in. A lot of them most likely use diesel already, but the fact that there'll be high cost of power as well, and power is not even forthcoming as much anyway, so they have to revert to diesel. Some use petrol. So imagine what then happens to that 100 naira bottle of water. Will it have to increase yet again? a lot of things were just going through my mind, and this is where government needs to step in. So try to cushion the effect for those manufacturers such that all of those things they will be spending more money on, they will not have to, and then they will not pass the bulk to Nigerians.
I think one of the most important things to look at in all of this, I know we're short for time, one of the most important things to look at in all of this is how do you communicate your policies to the people? The managers, not only of the president's office, but of the ministries, departments, and agencies, have to find a way to ensure that Nigerians have a buy-in on these issues. Otherwise, hey.
Big one. A couple more stories right there for you, and let's leave it there for Nigeria News Direct.
The Leadership newspaper has this on its front page. The lead story is about security. And look at it. Insecurity. Hope rises for northern businesses with new service chiefs. I would personally applaud that with the huge issues of poverty figures, multidimensional poverty figures, hugely populated in the north.
And out-of-school children, too, again, which some will say is a fallout of insecurity.
Exactly.
Anyway, so.
Exactly. So that's that, the lead story. Insecurity hindering revival of region's economy, according to industrialists. Come on, I remember, was it Hamza Industries in the north? That fellow was a philanthropist who funded the 1987 Golden Eaglets at the time. I'm not quite sure if that's the name of the industry, but where is it? Today, and several others. The Kaduna had a vehicle manufacturing, vehicle assembling, and textile. But let's hope that this will change something. Our banditry stalled 30 billion naira milk factories, Zungeru dams in Niger. All of that packed on page 4, as well as IGP meets police squadron today. And I look at this one right beside that story. Serap to CBN. Withdraw regulations on customers' social media handles.
I saw that and it was, it's you have to tell your grandmother to open one social media account, okay, at this rate. Choose one, anyone. Just have one.
We'll just have to see how that's even going to play out in the first place, because there are those who don't want to go to the banks in the first place.
So it's as though you're putting another hurdle.
Yeah, I mean...
okay, you see,
okay.
I've tried, but you clearly don't want me.
But hey, it's in communicating it to the people that's going to make all the difference. Right under the nameplate, Labour fears job losses as discos raise electricity tariffs. Find the details of that continue on page 7 of Leadership newspaper this morning, and several others, on the front page of this day, of the Leadership newspaper. And with that, we have come to the end of looking at some of the dailies this morning, but not the end of the program. We are coming right after this break to take on the issues as they come. Do stay with us.
For me, whether you campaign for me or you didn't campaign for me, I am the president. By the grace of God, I have to work on your behalf and make Nigeria a turning point for prosperity. We will change the financial system and we work for it.
All right, welcome back. So, yes, we'll talk about some of what the president did say there on the sidelines in Paris for that Financial Inclusion Summit. Yes, we do have Mr. Yuguda here with us. He's a former managing director of NOW and Inland Bank. He's a former Minister of State for Transport and Aviation, a former governor of Bauchi State. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Well, part of what the president said, if we could just even go through some others, yes, you've heard some of what he says there, that he will make the financial system work for Nigerians. But he also did say that, look, under the former CBN governor, the financial system was rotten, and then few people were making bags of money. He also did say the subsidy on petrol needed to go because it was making a few people rich, and then several others couldn't benefit from it. And after which he said, look, we will cleanse this financial system. We will make sure that that financial system works. So those are some of the comments of the president there about that system. Yes, they've gone ahead and taken some policies, policy decisions. We'll talk about that impact. But about what you have heard him say now about the financial system, were you surprised at all?
Well, thank you very much, Amberin. I think Mr. President wouldn't have said anything better. Maybe I will start with the issue of subsidy first. This has been a very, very serious issue, or issue that has been so much talked of. And it was maybe a motion without movement. It was just a talk show, and then, government didn't have the political will to address the problem. I was privileged to serve as the chairman of the subcommittee 2008 and 2009 on the economic meltdown. I was one of the members, 3 of us governors and some other members with Mr. President as chairman. So I chaired the committee on subsidy, and everything about the subsidy regime, and then the scam in the subsidy regime was discovered by my committee. And of course, since then, recommendations were made, which unfortunately were never implemented, and it's very sad. I'm sad to let Nigerians know that from what I saw, we came across situations where subsidy was claimed on pipelines that never existed. You just claim that they have pumped X amount of, either finished products or crude, maybe from Kaduna, from Warri to Kaduna.
By who? By NNPC? Making this claim?
Of course, who else is doing it?
Oh, dear.
Those that pump and those that are in the subsidy scam, they just fill papers, invoices, and they claim subsidy on it. In fact, there was an instance of a pipeline that was supposed to exist between Lagos and Warri. And tons of monies were collected on subsidy on a pipeline that never existed. This is Nigeria for you.
But I thought they were telling us that it is marketers and some other persons who are perpetrating the fraud. So NNPC is involved?
They are all involved in these things, all of them. Oh. All of them. And I must sadly also report that, you see, Nigeria subsidy, if it's that part of it that is actually goes for the subsidy, we go on subsidizing sub-Saharan Africa and Central Africa, because the bulk of these products are smuggled out of this country. Then who is subsidizing who?
Wait, that report that you spoke about NNPC, all of them being involved, was it submitted to the government?
Of course it was.
Government knows about this?
Of course, yes, they do. And attempts were made, but I'm telling you, it can be very frustrating in Nigeria to implement policies, especially where there are interests and a cabal that exists. It's just similar to what you have as this bunkering issue. It's something it can be stopped, but you can't stop it. It can be stopped, but the political will to stop it is not there. There are so many interests that are involved there. And that's what is leading Nigeria to where we are today. That at a point in time during the Jonathan regime, I know we hardly were pumping up to 1 million barrels a day. And the prices kept crashing. Then how do you manage the economy that is dependent on oil? So the subsidy regime, like I said, should have gone way back in 2012, 2013. Should have gone. Any person that is shouting subsidies are going to affect that, this is a selfish person. A person who is connected to the scammers that are killing this country.
What you've said is very shocking. to a lot of Nigerians. Much as you said you were sad to tell it, but yes, it's important that Nigerians know. And that means that all this while, the previous government and previous governments have been lying to Nigerians about this subsidy matter.
I think so. They didn't have the political will to take the decisions to remove it. All this, they say, IMF is pushing us, IMF is that, World Bank is... That is not the issue. In fact, I have one of my friends who is in the oil industry. We traveled to China with him, one of the presidents of Nigeria. He told me, my brother, because we were discussing the subsidy issue, say, I'm a member of the economic team of Mr. President. And when I went for a meeting, I told him, Mr. President, I called him by the side. I said, Mr. President, please remove this subsidy. He said, we are tired of making money.
What?
I'm telling you to God Almighty. He said, we are tired of making money, Mr. President. Remove this subsidy. Because he is a patriot, and he's seen the scams that are going on there.
Goodness.
And he told me, he's alive today.
You talked about the recommendations that were made.
The
recommendations made in that report. What were the recommendations?
Well, the recommendation was to remove the subsidy and some steps to address some of the problems associated to, making the product, expensive as it even lands. At a point in time, that time, ships would line up, over 60, 70 ships, lining up in the high sea, trying to come in to dock and then discharge in Atlas Cove the fuels. They spend an average of 2-3 months. And we pay demurrage. The country pays close to about $100 to $150 million every month. In the report, we suggested that there should be a floating barge, maybe that can carry fuel, up to maybe 4, 5, or 10, or even 20 ships. We can have a floating barge that can store that. And then we have barges coming to pick and then discharge at Atlas Cove. I said no, because people are making money out of it. So I believe we have seen, God works wonderfully. We have seen a solution in a president that can do it. He can really do it because he knows the problems and he knows the solutions. And he's been a businessman. So, and he's from the commercial center of Nigeria. And he made Lagos what it is today as a medium-income economy. So he knows he knows all the crooks in the country.
Help us understand this a little bit more. Won't your friend then say that they were tired of making money, understanding the scam? So did he tell you, why didn't the president go ahead and remove it? Because if he had that first-hand information, he should have acted, the former president.
I'm sorry, my brother. The president may not have done it because of the entrenched interest. It could even be at the risk of his life. But at least the president of Nigeria is adequately protected. If I were him, I would have bitten the bullet and taken the decision.
So why,
let hell fall, because the poor man out there is suffering and dying of hunger.
Yeah,
and we are busy feeding on them in collaboration with foreigners.
But at the risk of his life may not be tenable because he's very well protected as president.
Yes, so I'm just wondering. Probably, the whole thing was maybe shrouded in something very cloudy that you cannot understand. Because why are you a worker? Why are you? You are there to take decisions on a daily basis. And this decision can be right or wrong. You have the right to take those decisions. And you see a good decision, you'll be afraid of it. Even the question of removing this devaluation. At the point in time when we didn't have enough, revenue coming in, we had that Paris Club, that during the Jonathan's time. We urged him to devalue so that more money can come into the system and fund, debts that we have locally so that the economy can move. But you are owing, you have a means of payment, you are saying, no, you will not take the decision. These are the kind of traps that we find ourselves.
We'll also talk about that bit, but just a little more on this subsidy, because I think my colleagues still have some questions on that subsidy before we come to the financial sector. So wouldn't it be appropriate for this president, this government, to then say, look, haven't seen the kind of mess, because if you use the word rotten for the financial sector, I wonder what he will say about the subsidy regime, because he will know a thing or two about it. Should he then say, look, it doesn't matter whether we're on the same party or not. We have to probe deep into this, and all of those who are found guilty,
Yes.
you have to face the music.
That would have been very excellent. But I must say, with all sense of decency, those involved, I believe, should not go free. Because there is no how a country like Nigeria, over 200 million people, you have close to about 90% under the poverty line. You cannot explain it. When one person is owning yachts all over the world and keeping all sorts of rubbish outside Nigeria, feeding fat on the death of our people, hunger of our people, people sleeping with their children without food, no conscience whatsoever. And I want to assure you that presently, what we have is the structure of the economy. You can hear the president talking about the economy and, of course, the challenges in the economy. Now, last year, my colleague, Mr. Kabwezi, who was my ED now, and I handed over to him when I was appointed minister, the DG budget, he alluded to the fact in a seminar workshop, sometimes last year, said that 97% of our monthly revenue is dedicated to debt service.
97%.
And what does that translate to? Do Nigerians know the meaning of that? It means that you have only 3% of your revenue to service government activities, recurring and capital expenditures. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that today, what other alternatives is left for Tinubu to run Nigerian economy? Apart from the fact that this, what do you call it, the palliatives that we're talking about. And of course, the subsidy regime that we're talking about, the mere fact that it's a scam itself is enough to remove it. But now the challenge is, where is he going to get the money?
So, let's just
to fund government.
Let's go back a little bit,
Yeah.
still on this subsidy thing. I know that some of the recommendations that had been made were that the refineries should work. At one time, the refineries were even privatized, and that was reversed at the same time. Yet, more money is going there to, what do you call it, turnaround maintenance of the refineries. What's the situation in that angle? Now that the subsidy is even out, would that even be looked at all?
Well, as far as we are concerned, we were part of the government. We saw how, contracts were awarded for the turnaround of,
The
refineries, and all sorts of investment in pipelines. And so it's just a question of who is doing what and where are the deliverables after having paid the monies. Where are the refineries? Nigerians are not even asking questions. And there was, to my knowledge, there is no refinery that was ever turned around and did work. Even if it did, maybe it didn't work for more than 2 or 3 months and it went down again.
Even with all the billions that were put for turnaround maintenance?
Yes, exactly. If you were doing that, where there are refineries today? How many times have you heard of Warri refinery turnaround?
Oh, dear.
How many times have you heard of Kaduna refinery turnaround? In the first instance, why should they die? I have a Mercedes car I bought when I was a very young boy after finishing university, way back in 1982. I bought a Mercedes 200, Kumbo. It's still there. The engine is never opened. I've just always changed engine oil, and I'm still driving the car. Which means that if these refineries were maintained, nothing would stop it nothing would stop them from working up till now. But where are they today?
Let's bring in our colleagues in Lagos.
And that is even responsible for all these massive imports of finished products to come and finish our country. And they have no heart. They have no heart. These people they are just heartless.
Go ahead, guys.
I've heard that expression, subsidies is scam, time and again. A former president, before he came in, had said it is a scam, but he came in and seemed to uphold and even, hold on to that scam for the length and tenure of 2 terms. Only leaving the final removal to the incoming administration, which has now been done. Labour has also said subsidy is a scam. But during the period when subsidy was at least full-blown, some say there's still subsidy anyway, it's just not removed totally. But during that period, people could still go to buy petrol for lesser than the amount they're buying it now. So help Nigerians understand that statement. Subsidy is a scam. At what point is it a scam? Because there are different people involved. There's government, there's the Ministry of Petroleum, there's NNPC, there's marketers, retailers, and all of that. At what point is subsidy really a scam? Let's demystify this expression if we can.
Well,
yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, by ordinary English definition of a scam, me and you precisely know what it is all about. It's a fraud. Somebody is being shortchanged, and diversions from money that is meant for an activity is not meant for that activity. So, like I said earlier, we are subsidizing Sub-Saharan Africa. So we are bringing in this fuel as an elevated cost, and then half of it is exported out by the same group that are supposed to keep this fuel in Nigeria. Is that not a scam? Is that patriotism? Are the people doing their job? Are the customs doing their job? Are other agents, security agencies that are supposed to keep our borders, closed and sanction those who are smuggling our products outside the country, doing their job? Now, secondly, I told you that when I chaired that committee on subsidy, which uncovered the scam in Nigeria, we found out that subsidy was claimed on pipelines that never existed. In fact, forms are just filled, invoices are just filled and sent to NNPC, and subsidies are paid. And to who are they paid? To the marketers. Because you must be an insider to be involved in this thing. Is that not a scam? Now, we are enjoying. Yes, we know we use petrol and gas, to drive our mobiles up and down, up and down. Now, if you look at the population of the country, yes, we appreciate that we must use what is the ratio of those car owners to non-car owners in Nigeria. So is it worth for us, we car owners, to be subsidized while the poor man on the street has nothing to be, no subsidy for him? Because if you say maybe it will translate to reduced transportation costs, I don't think that is the story. So we can go on and on to confirm and prove beyond reasonable doubt that the whole thing is a scam. And it can be sustainable. If, for instance, Saudi, who is producing maybe 10, 15 times more than Nigeria, the local consumer is consuming his own maybe 1 liter, maybe for about $1, or even slightly more than that. And you here in Nigeria, you are consuming it for, I think you are just living in a kind of trance. You are not facing realities.
Right, so quick follow-up.
So these are the situations that, of course, makes it...
Pardon me, quick follow-up. Just, the point has been made, but just to reiterate it and hopefully get a proper handle on it. So 8 years of a government. Yeah, the Jonathan administration tried to remove subsidy 2012. It was met with lots of criticism, protests. The government had to step back. And you are the chairman of the board of trustees of the APC Professionals Forum. It's essentially like a think tank of professionals in Nigeria's ruling party. It's been in power for over 8 years. So seeing that subsidy scam persist, year 1, year 2, year 3, up until year 8, why didn't we see, I don't know, major protests? Why weren't issues raised to the government in power, which was headed by your party, that we cannot continue with this scam? It has to stop now, except we're saying that we saw clear injustice, clear scam going on, and we allowed it.
Well, can I go ahead?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah, we have seen that situation. And unfortunately, you call a spade a spade. We didn't have the political will to remove the subsidy. And besides then, maybe the environment was even a little bit more friendly. That is to say, the Paris Club funds were there. Government was maybe went out borrowing and trying to, imagining that it could be possible for them to sustain the economy in that manner, knowing that maybe they are heading for a crash. And of course, the situation now is completely different. You have a situation where like I said earlier, we don't have money to pay our debts. We're in a debt-trapped situation. If you have 97% of your revenue, even the Minister of Finance said it, going for debt service, then where else? Who else is going to give you money to run the government? So this is the time, as a matter of necessity, there is no any other way that Mr. President will look for, other than looking at this means of increasing the revenue of government through, removing the subsidy and bringing in some pain-relieving, measures, which could be possible. And at the same time, if Mr. President can have the will to go after all those government officials that were responsible for all these hemorrhages, let them bring back 70, 80% of what they have taken out of Nigeria, and let them bring the balance back into the treasury of Nigeria so that Nigeria can work. Otherwise, I don't see him, will he continue printing money that the way they've been doing, MFL has been doing, makes and means, always quantitative easing, printing money, left, right, and center, increasing borrowings? It's not possible. Well, because government cannot continue to borrow from the central bank to fund activities. It's not possible. There's a limit to which you can borrow.
Well, you just went to the very question that I was just about to ask you, sir. I mean, there are those who have been asking that, the federal government, this current administration, should probe this subsidy regime. It didn't seem to become a problem until the Jonathan administration, when, it really got to a head. I don't recall if ever there was a time that the Obasanjo government, made an issue of the fuel subsidy regime, and if it did, maybe not as prominent as it became under the Jonathan government at the time. If you can help us understand, for how long would you say this scam, as we call it, has existed? And you've said now that questions should be asked. Since no one is mentioning names and no one is willing to come out and say, I was part of this scam, how do you suggest that the government should go about probing, if you agree, the fuel subsidy regime? Otherwise, how will we collect the money, from them as you are proposing?
Well, you can be rest assured that there is no information that can be hidden. Nobody can hide information as long as it is something that has to do with a formal, structured organization, unless otherwise records are destroyed. But if we have a committee, a very high-powered committee, that can engage some very good accountants who can do some forensic auditing on most of these institutions, the truth will come out. And like you say, at what point? I'm talking now how many years since I headed that committee that uncovered the oil subsidy scam? Since 2009, 2008, 2009. You can imagine the number of years now. So, but even before then, I served in Abbas government, Obasanjo's government, as minister in the Ministry of Transport and also in the Ministry of Aviation. That time too, the scam was on. But like I said, the effects, in fact, it has not matured to the level that it had matured now, where instead of maybe making a deal, getting $10 million, maybe they're getting $100 million. So it continued graduating, growing, up to where they have to bring us down to our knees now, where we don't have revenue. So it is something that if once there is that political will to do something in Nigeria, I assure you it can happen, unless if you don't want it to happen. But there is nothing under the earth that can, that cannot be investigated, and then the results uncovered. I have done it several times. I've heard so many investigative committees as a banker, as a minister.
Well, there's so much more to.
How to,
pardon me. There are so many other issues to raise on this, but we'll step up on some of them and perhaps go to some other issues as Chamberlain has suggested when we return from this break. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Now, so when you say that unless government has the political will to do the needful, nothing can be done. So the question then that comes to my mind is, I mean, do you think that the report of that committee that you sat on in 2009, do you think is still relevant? Do you think those institutions, those individuals or entities that were being paid subsidies at the time, do you think they can still be questioned? Are they still available to be questioned?
Well, a crime does not have, it's not time bound. So a crime can be investigated anytime, even after 100 years, or even after somebody is dead, you can still be investigated. So if records are there, if they have not been tampered with, definitely those records are there. And I believe there are many more reports thereafter of, this kind, because I know the former Minister of Finance, Ngozi Nkwenje-Iweala, who we served together, she had a similar investigation where she involved some firm of chartered accountants to do some forensic audit. In fact, in that her report, she discovered about $2 billion that was just going into private pockets. So I believe many more committees were set up later to confirm this position, and they still continue confirming, and apparently nothing has been done. Or if something has been done, I wouldn't know, because I'm not part of the NPC.
Well, there are those who will be wondering whether or not these individuals or these entities are untouchable or not. There are those who reference one word called cabal in this fuel subsidy scam mix, as well as the oil bunkering, the oil theft that's been reported, recorded, investigated. And it would seem like all we have is just, okay, this is uncovered now, and that is it. It would seem like, okay, nothing to ask again. Do you think these individuals or these entities are too powerful to be touched? Hence, there is a need for some political will other than the laws?
Well, apparently, I think very strongly that maybe part of those who are supposed to be doing the needful to bring them to stop what they are doing are also beneficiaries of that system. So it's not even a question of a cabal. It's a question of, a cobweb of so many other people that are involved, including, of course, maybe watchmen who are part of their employees. So it's a whole very sophisticated kind of gang-up that has led us to where we are today. And of course, most of the challenges, even in the Niger Delta, where we had challenges of youth, I mean, it's all because of injustice. Because if jobs were created in the Niger Delta, if jobs were provided, and if conditions of the quality of their life was improved, there would be no need to pick up guns. But you can see the chiefs, the government, the foreign oil operators, everybody is involved. And the people are made more and more, the majority on the land today. You go there, go to rivers, go to Bayelsa, go into their local villages, and you see poverty. When it's not supposed to be there.
Okay.
So, and we are talking about, having palliatives for the militants. In that circumstance, probably they have their own structure in such a way that money doesn't trickle down to the ordinary man. Something must be done. Otherwise, the way we are going, I don't think we have a very brilliant future.
Well, on that same issue...
But time must meet it. The country is going to be Greek and our president.
Yeah. On that same issue, just a quick one before we go to the, one or two other issues. Help us understand how the whole subsidy claims work. I mean, you said the other time that they just, submit some claims. How does this subsidy claims work? And the president, the former president and current president as well, for a while now, has been the petroleum minister. Do you think President Buhari, while in office, was aware of this scam?
Well, I don't know, because the Englishman will say silence is consent. And he's the president anyway, so he must know. Because I'm wondering how he cannot know it's happening. He's the president of the country, and he has taken that responsibility. He was sworn by the Quran to protect life and property and properties of Nigerians. So you can't claim ignorance. He is in charge. He's in charge. If somebody was doing something wrong, he has to take responsibility as a leader. So if somebody was doing the scam, if a group were doing a scam in subsidy, and at the end of the day, these are the results, we lay the blame on him because he's the president. And we can't claim that he's not knowledgeable about it because he's the petroleum minister. Unless if you don't, because Nigerians, we don't want to speak the truth. We don't want to speak our mind because we are afraid. But reality, facts are facts. And we must learn to say it as it is. Otherwise, we're almost like dead on arrival.
It would seem then that the subsidy scam was as the subsidy, the fuel oil petroleum sector was as I said, rotting as the financial system, according to the current president. In cleaning up the rotten financial system, as the president has said, help Nigerians understand what he could have meant by a rotten financial system.
Well, when you say something is rotten, it's really bad. It has gone bad because when something is rotten, it's almost like beyond repairs. But it can be fixed. You see, the Nigerian financial system, you look at the financial market, that is the capital market and the money market. When you talk about, when Mr. President talks about the whole thing is rotten, he's saying that the banks are rotten. Also, on the flip side of it, every other thing that has to do with financial intermediation too is suspect. The regulators are not doing their job. The operators are not doing their jobs. And to confirm Mr. President's assertion that it's rotten, how much do we have now in AMCOM as toxic assets? Maybe you don't know the figure, but I'm assuring you it's in excess of 3 trillion, 4 trillion. A Nigerian asking what is the source of that funding of the toxic assets? It's from the taxpayers' money. It is central bank that buys off those bad loans from banks who created the bad loans, and they give them liquid cash to continue their business. They buy up this thing and keep it in AMCON to sell. And that one too is another scam. So the rot is beyond anybody's imagination. The president is somebody to sympathize with. For some of us that know the inside dealing of the system, you sympathize with Tinubu and pray for him 24 hours. But the beauty of his is that he knows the problem. He has a firm grasp of the problem. At least he's 50% now. The next step is just the solution. Let him get the right people to do the job. I'm not sure he will be carried out of it.
You know, you mentioned NNPC in that while you were talking about the subsidy and then that report. So perhaps would you avail us a copy of that report much later? Because I imagine they would like to also have a thought on that.
I'm assuring you, I don't carry any government document to my house. All government documents are left where they are supposed to be.
But what is the title of this report?
It's a criminal offense even for you to carry a file. You see people carrying files to their house to work. It's a criminal offense under public service regulations. So any document that is considered classified and secret, you keep it where it is.
But what about the title of the report?
It's a report on fuel subsidy.
Which year was this?
2009.
2009.
Do you know Mr. Peter Esele?
Yeah.
He's a part of my committee. Please call him and ask him.
Who chaired it?
Adams, although Adams was not part of the subcommittee. But Peter Esele.
But who chaired the committee?
I chaired the committee.
Oh, okay.
But the president was the chairman, and the vice president, Jonathan, was the deputy chairman then of the Special Committee on Economic Meltdown. And that's why you see the meltdown, Nigerians never felt it because we really worked hard with the then new governor of the central bank, Sanusi.
Okay. Also, wind down on this financial system. Yes, you say the president is aware, he knows, just to take certain steps to solve it. But we also saw that they announced floating of the naira, and we saw that the dollar, many expected it will rally, naira will rally against the dollar. But today, we've seen several reports that it appears as though that forex scarcity persists. It means the supply side has not been addressed. So no matter how much of floating off the currency that we may have, it will still be a challenge because now we're reporting the naira against the dollar going at 770, which is contrary to what many expected, having announced their initial policy.
Well, maybe sometimes Nigerians are short-memored. We are forgetting from where we are coming from. Where, the dollar was maybe 8 years, 9 years ago, and where it is today. And we are not asking questions as the way this thing was just leapfrogging. Nobody was asking questions. You're just watching it happening. What does it translate to? So something must be happening. Nobody's even asking a question. And the former CBN governor, or the suspended CBN governor, had almost 8 regimes of forex, disposal. Nobody ever asked a question. Nobody cared. Until when something happens, people start apportioning blames and so on and so forth. But the strength of a currency depends on what? It depends on the strength of your economy, that is, strength of your reserves. Now, if you look at the foreign debts, our external debts, against our external reserves, they are almost running neck to neck. So if the strength of your currency is derived from the strength of your reserves, where are the reserves? And that's why you are encouraged to export basic so that you don't import. You build up your reserves and your currency becomes stronger. So our reserve base now is threatened. And of course, people are into panic buying of dollars because dollar has been seen as another gold, a store of value. So people and all these laundered funds, the stolen money that we see people stealing from our treasury, is laundered into the dollar. So there is a chase. I mean, there is that kind of a rush to buy dollar. And there's scarcity. So if we simply go by the elementary laws of demand and supply, when the supply is not there, the demand is very high. What do you expect?
So how do we make a way out of this? I mean, there was a time when Nigeria had that exchange thing with the yuan. Would that make any difference if we have different currencies by which we can rally the naira against not just the dollar as it is?
Well, you see, currency management, especially when it comes to do with international currencies like dollar, there's a currency of trade, the currencies of our reserve, because it used to be gold before we migrated to the dollar standard after the Second World War. So you can see that since it has become gold, everybody is. But you see, because of the world politics, now the politics have changed into the politics of currencies. And that's why today you have the BRICS, Brazil, China, what have you, coming as a club of 8 countries, including South Africa. And some more countries are also joining because they want to exit the dollar. They see a dollar as a dominant currency. They see the dollar as international currency. And anytime there is a problem between maybe China or Russia with America, This your MasterCard, the headquarters is in the US. Visa card is America. And the same thing with, the other card. If you swipe like this, the information goes to. So if they want to break down your economy, they can break down your economy by breaking down your finances. If you have reserves, they block the reserves. And it has happened several times. So these are some of the politics that are involved in international currency. And now it's very deep. The East now wants to have their own. And they're trying to get a block. And at the same time, the West and America are still fighting because America will want to retain the supremacy of the dollar.
Okay.
But it's a difficult thing for them now.
So I asked a question, and indeed you mentioned where we're going to, as regards this cards, the virtual cards we use for our
the
transactions here
MasterCard,
and
the
there.
Visa card, and...
I mean, the suspended CBN governor was talking about introducing a domesticated card, where a homegrown card for all our transactions. Would that make any difference? Bringing it back home?
No, but that is not it. You see, once you swipe, unless otherwise Nigeria has sufficient funds, that would reach a point, but I believe Tinubu will turn it around. If you have money in your domiciliary account, you cannot withdraw it.
But no, I think that new policy, you think it's going to change? Will it change anything?
Inshallah, it will. And why is because the president is looking at that. He has already, appointed an expert, who is, I know very well, finance guru. And of course, he can advise him on that aspect. There has to be so many things that have to be in place. And there is no problem that doesn't have a solution. Since you have the capacities that are there that turn around things, a lot of things we can do to reshape the economy and start life all over again. But already comatose.
All right, just as we wind down on this, a lot of talk on the former CBN governor. Does this insulate the former finance minister?
Well, you see, the act or the law that, gave birth to the present, dispensation in the central bank. The central bank is governed by a law. And I think the law has reduced the powers of the minister in supervision of the central bank. But she can't claim ignorance because she's the finance minister. The debt management office is under her. There is no how the debt management office will alert the minister that, look, we are over-borrowing. The threshold of our borrowing is 40%. And today, we have reached a level whereby we are 42, 43%. And it's very scary. You have to go and alert the president that all these unnecessary borrowings we are borrowing is going to...
as a former MD of a bank...
So, therefore, she has some questions to answer too.
But as a former MD of a bank, do you think that the bank themselves, too, their CEOs or the banks generally, have questions as well to answer on the system?
Of course, Shambali. I told you earlier that toxic assets in the region of 3 to 4 trillion. Who created them? Is it not the bank executives? Are they not walking the streets today with very flashy jets and so on and so forth? While their balance sheets are rotting, when they get rotten, they transfer the garbage to AMCON in connivance with Central Bank. Central Bank will dish out taxpayers' money to them, and on and on. Read the history of financial crisis. 70 to 80% of it was the source is banks.
All right, we'll anchor at this point with former MD now and Inland Bank. Mr. Isa Yuguda is a former Minister of State for Transport and Aviation, former Governor of Bauchi State, and the Chairman Board of Trustees for APC Professionals Forum. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chambali.
All right. We're back in just a moment, everybody. Do stay on with us.
I commended his boldness in removing the very inefficient fuel subsidies that Nigeria has. And, no bird can fly if his wings are tied at his back. And therefore, that would really help Nigeria significantly. And I think the whole issue of correcting the exchange rate distortions that Nigeria has, will also free up the access to forex and also make Nigeria's currency much more competitive in terms of export competitiveness for the things that we produce. All those are right signals that the president is sending, which investors like, with the international community likes, which will also attract significant amount of investment into Nigeria. I discussed with His Excellency the President about a couple of things. First, of course, is agriculture, to see what we can do to support the government with regard to the Mr. President's vision in agriculture. We discussed about special agro-industrial processing zones, for which we already have about $520 million for Nigeria, and how we are going to make sure that that project actually gets accelerated to give quick wins to the president. The other one that we talked about is the power sector. How we will bring support to support his efforts and his vision and that of his government with regard to how to improve the access. The president wants to make sure that there's access to electricity in Nigeria, and therefore he talked to us about how we can support him in that, and I gave him the assurance that we will, support significantly the power sector in Nigeria. I discussed with the president also with regard to the industrial sector in Nigeria. I was impressed with his vision in terms of trying to grow industrial sector in Nigeria and to also have an export-oriented industrial manufacturing stance, which is very important for growing the forex for Nigeria. As I said to the president, we have to grow the forex for Nigeria, as opposed to just distributing small amount of forex that is available, have a more expansive view. The Excellency has that expansive view, and I was quite impressed. And finally, we discussed about the youth. I've heard him speak quite a lot about young people. His heart for young people and what he wants to do to support them. And he asked for our support with regard to what we can do for Nigeria on that. And I explained to the president that we will support with the establishment of youth entrepreneurship investment banks in Nigeria. These are going to be new financial institutions that will support the access to financing at scale, both whether it is in terms of debt or equity financing for businesses of young people in Nigeria. He has a desire to grow the wealth for young people, which is actually very good.
Welcome back. Well, talking a little bit of law and business, we've got a man who manages to combine both. Mr. Dakpo Oyewumi is the CEO of Center for Law and Business. He joins us virtually. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the program today. Well, much is being said about the business environment and the climate, how we need to clean it all up and ensure we do get it right. But in terms of the judiciary, there's a lot of focus as well, and the expectations at that, because we've heard the president say he is going to go on with a lot more reforms in the judiciary. But when that comment came through, even though he came up with another explanation, Senator Bulkuchua, about the former president of the Court of Appeal, there were different perspectives. We didn't get opportunity to get your impression of what you made of it, even though the NBA themselves also put up a statement. But that, in a manner of speaking, put some searchlights on the judiciary. How did you see all of what went down, if it has blown away?
Chamberlain, and thank you for having me again. The statement credited to the president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, about illegal orders. For us as lawyers, it's difficult for someone who is not a lawyer to determine what is illegal. So it's going to be very difficult, and as the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association has stated, legal orders, judicial orders remain valid and subsisting until they are vacated. So it's important that the president works within the law. And I can recall that when he was the governor of Lagos State, he used the law to a large extent, against the federal government at that time. He won some very landmark cases, creating the local councils that we have in Lagos State today, and a lot of other things acting within the boundaries of the law. So I would expect him that he will also work within the boundaries of the law now that he's president. If any judicial order or legal order by a court is considered unacceptable, I will not use the word illegal, then there's a built-in system for it. You go on appeal, you challenge the order, and then you get the order vacated if it is indeed illegal or if it is indeed unacceptable. But it's not in the realm of the executive arm of government to determine which order is legal or which order is illegal. It's clear about that. There's nothing that can be done about that one. All judicial orders are valid until they are vacated. And let's not also forget that the judicial arm of government is an arm of government. And the principle is that the three arms of government are equal. Not one is superior to the other. Of course, because the executive arm of government is executive and controls the purse strings, it may seem to have an advantage over the other arms of government. But the three arms of government, the judiciary, the legislative arm of government, and the judicial arm of government are all equal amongst themselves. So due respect must be given to judicial orders and legal orders amongst the three arms of government amongst themselves. That's what I would say about that statement about illegal orders.
So what can you tell us as, or describe as the huge, if there's any such thing as the biggest impediment to reforms in the judiciary? Do they need the executive to weigh in? Can it be done internally within the judiciary themselves?
Well, I would say that the greatest bane affecting this country, whether in the judiciary or in the legislative arm of government or in all arms of government, is the people. We have systems that are meant to work, but in implementing the systems, then different things come to play: personal interest, selfish interest, and the interest of the nation is put behind, and everybody is looking at their personal interests. The present system should work to produce the kind of judiciary we're looking at. Better lawyers, trained lawyers, lawyers that are selfless, and the people themselves need to help the judiciary. The judiciary don't go about asking for any favors from people. People go to meet them and say, oh, please do this, please do that. And we're all Nigerians. We're coming from the same stock of people. The judiciary, the judges are not brought from a different country or born by a different set of people. They are Nigerian. And they are affected by the vagaries and the system and all the challenges that face Nigerians as a whole. So where there's a will to do things properly and everybody decides that we need to do things properly, then it will be possible, even with what we have now, to have a better judicial system. The working environment for the judges is not the best. It's absolutely not the best. You go to some courts and it's challenging, it's difficult. You know, it's difficult working in those environments. Then the administrative support system for the judges themselves, it's not exactly the best. Still writing in shorthand, typing, power outages, hot environment, unpleasant environment, and even a lot of political pressure being brought to bear upon the judges, even in the appointments of the judges in the first place. There's a lot of politics and witty dealing that go into it, and as such, that's bound to affect the judicial system. And then there's also this misconception about judgments and things like that. It's, oh, the judges have done this and that. Don't forget that the judges deal with the evidence that's brought before them. And in most of the criminal cases, especially those by EFCC and all those corruption-related cases, the cases are lost by the prosecution. You tender evidence that is not acceptable in evidence by the law. The judge has no option but to give judgment based on the evidence before him. You know, and so, but to the average man, oh, the judges have been saying, they forget that perhaps the evidence or maybe the level of awareness that the evidence that was brought before the judges do not meet the requirements to prove the crime. And the judge has no choice to give judgment in accordance with the evidence that's before him. And that's the challenge you have. I'm not saying that there's no need to take a thorough review at the system and see how it can be made better. The entire nation, every aspect of human endeavor in this country needs a review. From banking, the executive itself, the executive is bloated, in my own opinion. Government is too large. Expenses there are so many leakages everywhere. The legislative arm has its own problems. We're not sure whether they hire the legislative aides that they are meant to hire. The quality of research that goes into the legislation leaves a lot to be desired. Sometimes the legislation is knee-jerk reaction to what's going on in society. So it's a whole gamut of problems that's facing the entire nation at different aspects of the country, the judiciary, the legislation, and the executive arm of government. So there's a need, honestly, for
you've painted a picture here, if I may come in here, you've painted a picture of a humongous task before not just the president and his team, but also a humongous task for the entire nation. I mean, talking about reforms needed in the executive, in the legislature, and in the judiciary. But if one wants to look at it, I mean, standing on the premise that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, I mean, that's where all the laws are interpreted, and that's where one hopes that at the end of the day, by one reason or the other, the common man might be able to get justice, and then equity is assured for the rest of the people. At what point, or where do we start? If we look at it from this side, for instance, the president has come up to give a unified, sign that law that ensured unified retirement age for the judges. You talked about the environment where the judges work and the equipment with which they have to work with. There are those who are concerned about the curriculum that's even passed, that's even taught to the lawyers in the law schools. All of these things put together, where should we start when we talk about judicial reforms in Nigeria?
Okay, thanks for that question. Okay, we look at the system where it is. You mentioned the unified retirement age for judges. There's some controversy over that because I think that law was presented to the former President Buhari, and he didn't sign it. At the point that he didn't sign it, and the number of days for which bills need to be passed to law has elapsed, that law really, I think, has elapsed with the last National Assembly. And I'm not sure ought to have been brought back to the present president. There's still some issue about that. And then there's also the issue about the commencement of that law. Does it commence immediately? Does it apply to judges that are appointed after the law? Those issues don't seem to be quite clear in that law. And so that also leaves issues left to be determined or to be reviewed so that that can be looked at properly. Then you look at low-hanging fruits. The environment of the judges can be looked at immediately. That's something that you can look at immediately. How do the courts appear? The supporting personnel, the administrative personnel for the judges, because that's very important, where the judges are supported by effective personnel that understand what the problems are and how the judicial system should work. That can be looked at immediately. And then the more long-term issues, whether the curriculum of the Nigerian law school, I'm not sure that there is any major problem with that. If you ask me, I think my own challenge with that will be the implementation of the curriculum, the running and management of things, and not necessarily the curriculum itself. That is the way I would look at it. And then you look at all other issues that pertain to the judiciary. But again, I repeat that it is not only the judiciary that has a problem. Right now, the entire system needs a revamping. But we are focusing on the judiciary, and that's my own opinion. We can look at the low-hanging fruits, the support system for the judges, their operating environment, their terms of service, and all that. Those don't take much difficulties. Those are issues that can be looked at almost immediately and can be improved upon. And once that's improved upon, then the more longer-term issues can be reviewed. That's my opinion.
All right, Ayo and Coyote.
Right, thank you, Neota. Just to follow up on that point you made about the bill which was signed into law by the president, that harmonization bill. But I hate to think that the president does not get the right kind of advice, because you'll expect at that level he gets top-notch advice at the very top level. So what could have happened? I mean, a bill that you say the time has elapsed, then being dug out for the president to append his signature, and signature was appended. I mean, what could have happened, and what kind of redress should be sought such that we don't build on, quote, illegality, as it were?
Well, let me say this. Okay, let me say this. There has been. What I would expect is the issue having been brought up should be reviewed to see whether or not that law has been properly passed into law. And if it hasn't been passed into law, then it should be declared a nullity. I'm not against the principle of the unification of the judicial retirement age for judges. No, I'm not. All I'm saying is that whatever is to be done, it should be done for. And we know that once a law lapses with one National Assembly, then the next National Assembly has to take it up and look at it and start a whole process again. And that will be the solution here as well. the entire system, the entire law and bill can be looked at again. And then if it's deemed passed, we already have an indication of the thinking of the present president that he's in favor of that law. Then let the present National Assembly look at it and let it be passed properly. So there's no controversy. Because you can imagine judges going beyond the age 65 now and going on, and then lawyers are then challenging the legality or the validity of their judgments. It's going to be, it could be catastrophic. So my opinion is that the matter should be looked properly so that there is no controversy at all. Of course, in every issue of law, there are different shades of opinion. So some people might think that there's not a problem with it, some think that there's a problem with it. Opinions have been expressed by various people, and it is best that law is certain, so that everybody is certain, everybody knows the expectations, and there are no uncertainties. So that will be my position on that. Let's look at it, review it properly, and take the necessary steps that need to be taken so that the certainty of the law is sacrosanct.
I mean, I wonder who then will be looking to for this. We don't have an Attorney General or Minister of Justice that can maybe provide an insight into this just yet. So who exactly is meant to be speaking? Is it now the MBA? Is it the body of benches itself? I just wonder who should be taking this on, because it's a very important point you made. I imagine some of them are due for retirement, but because of this law that has been signed in, they will stay on. And I mean, as you clearly said, what if those judgments are challenged and then you have to now go all the way back to start uncovering or at least undoing those things? So who should take charge of this, just as a final one on that point?
Well, all lawyers and the different arms of the law are stakeholders in this matter. And in fact, the entire nation are stakeholders on the matter. So we have the Nigerian Bar Association, so they can look at it. You also mentioned the body of benchers. Those are all highly respected arms of the profession. We expect that an Attorney General and Minister of Justice will be appointed very soon. And so the issue is there. And so before it gets out of hand, any of those stakeholders will look at it. There's a principle of locus standi. Otherwise, would have said even some of the lawyers like ourselves to begin to raise the issue, but there's a major principle of locus standi. You have the locus to start an issue, to start litigation or to bring an action in court. Or otherwise, you would have said that can look at it. But government itself can look at it. Government has to be responsible.
Right.
When issues like this raised, government is, have we made a mistake? Don't forget that this was a law that was passed within the very first few days of the new presidency. Was he misadvised? We don't know. So if the issue has been brought up, the government itself can look at it and make redress.
Right. After all, there's nothing wrong in owning up to a mistake, and I think there's always been that misconception in governance that no, you don't own up. Even when you make a mistake, you find a way to sidestep and say, well, we meant to do that, and then move on. But I'd like you to speak to this talk about judicial reforms. Yes, you've talked about this, but the angle of separation of powers that has been raised, and I wonder what you think about it. Because, I mean, let's be honest, there's a certain level to which you would empower another arm of government, honestly. Perhaps you don't want it to be even more powerful than you. So who should really be taking charge of these judicial reforms? Can the executive appropriately empower the judiciary as it ought to be, knowing fully well that that will be your check and balance? So should the executive be the one championing this judicial reforms, as it were?
Okay. The judicial arm of government comprises of the Chief Justice of Nigeria, jurists, and Supreme Court judges. You have the National Judicial Council with all its members, including lawyers, former judges, former chief judges of the various states. They can all come down and decide to look at where there's a problem. The Nigerian Bar Association also plays a very, in fact, don't forget that the Nigerian Bar Association is like the regulatory body for lawyers, and its impact in the judicial system cannot be overemphasized. That's very important. So I would look at it and say that a position of self-regulation, self-introspection by the judicial arm of government itself, saying that there's been so and cry by society over the way we've been doing things. Some of them are justified, some are not justified, some are issues of misunderstanding, people not understanding the way the law works and all that. So let's look at ourselves and do what might be best so as to gain the confidence. Because Chamberlain talked about the law of the common man. The unfortunate thing is that these days, people tend to take the law into their hands. They're looking for alternative means of settling disputes, and that is beginning to show that confidence in the judicial system is being eroded. Matters go to the police, civil matters, people will go and report civil matters to the police. People tend to criminalize matters, simple contracts between themselves. They go to the police, the FCC. They try to criminalize it so that they can get the police involved, they can get the FCC involved. And rather than those bodies saying, oh, this does not concern us, again, the problem of the nation, they all take it up. Some of them become debt collectors in the performance of their roles. They become debt collectors, concerning themselves with matters that ought not to concern them. So I would put it that a self-introspection by the judicial would be a very, very good starting, aided by the Nigerian Bar Association, of course, and the other major bodies, the body of benchers and everybody. But we look at it. But don't forget that whatever is done, you need financing, which comes from the executive arm of government.
Perhaps we can take that on. Mr. Yomi, perhaps we can take that, separately, because it is indeed significant. But the issues you raised about other, security agencies of governments having a role to play in this and taking on responsibilities that are not essentially theirs, it calls for concern, doesn't it? It sounds to me like what you're saying is the entire judicial reforms thing is a multi-stakeholder thing, not just something that has to come from the executive, not even just the judiciary, but then other agencies of government enforcing laws that they may not have, that may not be under their remit. How do we begin to streamline that?
Well, a proper understanding of the position. And again, it comes back to the people. I would always say that the starting point for us to get this country moving is the people, our mindset. Because these other arms of government, they are quite aware that they know that those are not their remits. But it is just a way of probably boosting their income, aiding friends. We all like to ask for favors. We all like to use the powers and the connections that we have in government. Oh, I know this person, I know that person. So the entire mindset has to change.
Okay, well,
the
on
policeman that's looking into the landlord-tenant or people who have simple contracts knows that he's not meant to do so.
Well, Mr. Yomi, on that same issue, I mean, you said you've brought it back to the people. But most of the time, it would seem like even the people themselves are not aware of some of these laws, or perhaps I should say their rights. Some laws are released, constitutional amendments are put out, but people have no idea. Consequently, they can't even claim the rights that they're not aware of. What do you see? Do you see a significant challenge in the area of communicating the laws to the people? Because there are quite a number, and not just the awareness of the law, but the enforcement of the laws by the people themselves. How do we communicate it to them?
I would take it beyond that. I would take it to the level of education and awareness of the nation. It's not just the law communicating the law to the people. The level of, how will I say it, the level of illiteracy has gone up in the country significantly from the past days. And people are so focused on living, surviving. And of course, you know that the judicial system tends to move quite slowly. And people are looking for quick fixes. I want a solution to my problem. Someone is owing me money. I want that money tomorrow because perhaps that's the money I've been relying on. So if I go to court the next 1 or 2, let me go to my friend in EFCC. Let me go to my friend in the police and tell him a story and let him harass that person for me. So it's a myriad of problems, So I would take it even to the level of education, information, and awareness. And in that respect, I will be looking at the orientation agents. The National Orientation Agency, in my opinion, has a lot of work to do. We need to begin to orientate our minds away from the present values, the way we do things, the quick fixes, the cutting corners, the illegalities that are bound in the nation right now. We need to be able to change our minds. And like you said, some people don't know their rights. Some people don't even know it's wrong. I remember many years ago, I've forgotten what the issue was, a lady came on television and said somebody should be beaten and punished and thrown into jail until she confesses to a crime. She didn't mean any harm. As far as she's concerned, it is proper for someone to be tortured to confess. So if such a person is tortured, if it was hard on, she will accept it. And that was the proper way to go. So it's a big problem. It's a major one. Well, it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
The level of poverty, the level of education, the level of awareness, the level of the law, the processes of the legal system, how it works, and all that. So it's a major issue here, I would say. But we can start somewhere. And I'm sure we'll get there when we start.
And clearly, lots of talking points, not just talking points, action points from this conversation. I'd like to thank you so much, Mr. Dapo Oyewumi, CEO, Center for Law and Business. So
absolutely.
Deals with the business of law and the law of business. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Well, let's take a look at the mails you have sent in. Clearly, the conversation around subsidy, the judiciary, I mean, they're topping the feedback we're getting. This one from Alalade Ademola. It's a tweet that says it is high time the judiciary in Nigeria is strengthened, and the steps taken by Mr. President to ensure this is realized is a welcome development. Rule of law needs to be maintained for us to get things working properly in the country, he says.
Well, this one is from Treshfield. Says Tinubu should be fair by not just probing deeper into the subsidy scam, but everyone involved should be nabbed and brought to book. He did same to Godwin Emefiele, right? Then he should also exercise his power in this subsidy scam. Arrest them all.
Well, we have this email from Shamus Oni, and he says, on the fuel subsidy scam, he says, if we have to unravel the truth about this thing called fuel subsidy scam, then the government of the day must be sincere enough to carry out a holistic forensic audit of the whole process leading to the payment of money for the subsidy. I mean, the government should go through all documents raised through the process leading to the final payment. All MDAs saddled with the responsibilities for this monitoring and evaluation should be interrogated and investigated to establish the authenticity of the payments made to the recipients. However, the capability of the government to unravel the truth about the whole process will be determined by the political will to do so. Shamus, Oni.
Well, on the same subject matter, Oladele says one can make a legal arguments for economic rights in Nigeria, as it seems like the past and present governments have not been held accountable for failing economic policies. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights adopted by the General Assembly of the UN under Article 25 states that there's a right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of each person and their family, including basic food, medical care, social services, and security. It also referenced in some of our local laws as well as our 1999 Constitution, as it aims to protect and promote economic activities. Well, we thank you all for your messages. That is the show today. We'll see you again tomorrow. Don't forget to keep them coming. We will be back next time. Have a very good day, everybody. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
And I'm Neo Taigwe. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm Kayode Okikelu.
And I'm Ayomakide. Please, who is doing something about this traffic on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway? Have a good day.